guys, and welcome to
Start by acknowledging it's normal
and
and you're not alone in
I'm really
this.
struggling.
And it is
Then take a step
7:20.
back
Dealing
when you
with so
can
much
to yourself
anxiety
a pause for a moment. I don't have any advice.
When I was a freshman in high school, I was on the bus coming back from a football game, not because I was a football player, but because I was playing the snare drum in band. And so we were on the band bus, and sitting near me, I had my friend Brett, and he was sitting next to his girlfriend Deborah, and we're all in band gear, and suddenly a crowd forms, and everyone starts chanting, "Kiss her, kiss her, kiss her." Man, the pressure was real. Everyone thought that it was funny. Everyone wanted it to happen. But Brett says, "Hey, that's not who I am. Either I'm going to marry this girl or I'm going to break up with her. And if I marry her, I'll have my whole life to hang out with her. But if I break up with her, how awkward would that be if I kiss her right now?" And in that moment, Brett showed me what it looks like to run away from temptation and not toward it. And I think that the truth is that all of us face temptation. Maybe not kiss her, but maybe you can hear things like, say that word, or send that picture, cheat on the test, steal the money, just lie about it. And sometimes no one else is even saying it, it's just the voice that's in your head. Temptation is everywhere. This actually reminds me of one of the most underrated Disney movies of all time, The Emperor's New Groove. You have Kronk, who's trying to make a decision, and an angel pops up on one side and the devil on the other, and both of them are talking at the same time, telling him what to do. And I feel like that's what temptation feels like. Do that thing. No, do that thing. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's your own thoughts, but everyone faces it. So what do we actually do about it? Not what do we think about temptation, but what does the Bible actually say about temptation? We're going to start in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 13, and I just want to let you know that this verse was written to people like you, people trying to follow Jesus, but still dealing with temptation. This is what it says. It says that temptations in your life are no different from what others experience, and God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. So when you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. Here's 3 key truths that I hear in here. You're not the only one. God is faithful, and there's a way out. And this message from Paul is really for believers because temptation is a crossroads moment. It's a moment of us saying, am I going to choose God or am I going to choose to walk away from him? And in this crossroads moment for these believers, Paul is saying in chapter 10, like, hey, you are free to make a choice. And what is beautiful about this idea of freedom also brings about this idea that more temptation might abound. And I know that some of you, you're like, I'm not free. Are you kidding me? My parents, they don't let me have a phone. I have zero freedom. I'm not allowed to have sleepovers. But you are stepping into a season where you're going to have more freedom. And with more freedom comes more temptation. And so Paul, he's looking at this example from Israel, and he looks back and he says, these were people who had everything from God, and they still chose to sin. I mean, they saw God move. They saw miracles. Like they experienced real life miracles. They had his provision, but they still fell into temptation. And so this is a super clear warning, and Paul is saying, don't be like them. And so through this warning, I think that Paul is giving us permission to learn from others. And I think that we can learn from people who fell into temptation, and then we can learn from people who stood firm when it came to temptation. This is what it looks like when you don't take the way out, when you fall. This is my older brother's story. So my oldest brother, Kevin, he had just gotten his license, and he's driving with his friend, Mike. I'm not going to tell you the detail that he skipped class to go on a drive. Just told you. But they are going to hang out in Wayne County, Ohio, where there's literally nothing to do. There's cornfields and some cows, but it makes a lot of straight roads. So they were going on this road. They hit this railroad track where there was just a little bit of an incline, and they noticed that their car got some air. Well, they went to Walmart, got the best snacks ever, Doritos and Mountain Dew, and on the way back, they came literally to a crossroads moment. to a temptation of like, can we hit this hill just a little bit faster? Now, they also have this decision to make of, will I honor my parents? Will I break the law? So they hit the hill, going 85 miles per hour. And when they hit it, the car lands on its nose and it starts doing cartwheels down the road. There's a couple that's walking their dog, and they literally have to jump into a ditch to avoid this car that's coming at them. Kevin's friend Mike, his head goes into the windshield, and then they land in the middle of this cornfield. And literally by God's grace, somehow, both of them lived. Now, every time that I see a hill, and when I have that temptation to go just a little bit faster, I looked at someone who fell into the wrong hands and did the wrong thing. And I go, I'm not going to go fast, and I don't want to hit that hill. And I think that Paul is saying we can learn from others in their negative response to temptation. But then there's also others that we can see how they stood up to temptation. And I think that the best example of that is Jesus. So Jesus is tempted in Matthew chapter 4, and as he is being tempted, and this is crazy because in 1 Corinthians 10, it says, no different from what others experience. Like even Jesus experienced temptation. So when we see him getting tempted in Matthew 4, we go, oh my gosh, Jesus was tempted? Yes, even him too. Satan comes to him and he says, hey, I'm going to give you all these options. Control, power. It was funny because Jesus had just fasted for 40 days and he says, hey, why don't you take this stone and turn it into bread? What a good temptation. Jesus had the power to do that. He can easily turn stone to bread, but he chose not to. And he stood at the crossroads, and being fully man and fully God, he said, will I follow my will or will I follow the will of my Father? And Jesus chose God. What was his strategy? How did he stand firm in this? Well, Jesus uses scripture. He corrected the lies and he stood in truth. Jesus didn't run towards sin. Instead, he ran towards truth. He ran towards his Father. So here's the truth for you. You always have a way out. Now, you've probably done this before. Like, I want you to pause and think for a second. What's one time that you have resisted temptation and you have run towards God? Good. Think about it. Maybe here were some of your thoughts. Maybe you walked away. Maybe you just said no. Maybe you called a friend. Maybe you left the room, or you turned off the phone, or you confessed to someone, or maybe prayer is the thing that helped you stand up to temptation. So the question again is not, is there a way out? But the question is, will I take it? There's one more incredible story in the Bible of someone who took the way out. This guy, his name is Joseph, and Joseph faced temptation with Potiphar's wife. I'm not talking about a pot of fur. That was the guy's name. He was the ruler of this country, and he had this wife, and if he's the ruler of a country, I'm assuming that his wife was this beautiful lady, and she's looking at Joseph, who's not her husband, and she's flirting with him. And she's saying, hey, Joseph, I really like you, you handsome man. I don't know what she said, but she's flirting with Joseph. And Joseph had an opportunity, and he's standing at the crossroads, and he's tempted, and what did he do? He ran. Like, he literally just ran right out of the room. It said, like, I don't want to be a part of this temptation. He just ran. And so when Joseph comes to the crossroads, he says, I'm getting out of here. And here's what I want to encourage you to do today. When you are facing temptation and what the Bible says about it, run. Run. Don't flirt with it. When I was in middle school, I was really bad at flirting. I had this crush on a girl. Her name was Holly Troyer. And I had one of those candy hearts that you get at like Valentine's Day that says, you are, like the letters, you are cute. And I stood in the hallway and I waited for her to come out of class. And without saying words, I just went, yeah, and I put this little heart on her like books, and I sheepishly walked away. That was my lame attempt at flirting. But some of us do the same thing with temptation. Like you flirt with temptation. Here's an example. Maybe you Google something just because you're curious. Oh, I might just see it. And you flirt with that temptation. Or you start to gossip, and you're tempted to gossip, and you disguise it as a prayer request. And you're like, well, let me talk about this, and you're flirting with temptation. Or maybe you say yes to going over to that person's house, knowing that temptations are going to come up. Don't flirt with temptation. Flee from it. Let me reread 1 Corinthians 10:13 to you. It says, the temptations in your life are no different than what others experience. And God is faithful. He will not allow the temptation to be more than you can stand. So when you are tempted, he will show you a way out so that you can endure. Again, you're not the only one. God is faithful, and there's always a way out. I want you to think of something that's been a big temptation for you over the last week. Or maybe you have plans to even do something today or in an upcoming weekend. When it feels like everyone's chanting, do it, do it, do it. And you can stand at the crossroads and you can say, that's not who I am. So when temptation comes, what are you going to do? Here's what we're told to do. We run toward Jesus, not away from him. Why? Because God is faithful and always, always provides a way out. Have fun running this week.